Director of Brand Experience and Fuel, talking about designing moments that matter. Thanks, Jonny.
Hello, everybody. How are we? I'm going to go from that nice, calm breathing, I enjoyed that, into maybe lots of flashing images and get you too excited. So a little bit of housekeeping first. I do have a slide that is potentially quite fast and flashy, so if there's anybody that has a problem with epilepsy potentially, just let us know. If not, okay, I think we're okay. Good. Okay, so where I wanted to start on was actually probably picking up on what Grania said. I think, invariably when I meet new people, like I am doing right now, the topic of what do I do or what does the agency that you work for do comes up. And I would often say, well, I'm in experiential marketing. For some people, they get that. For most people, there's probably a reaction of, tell me more, what exactly is that? And invariably, you end up just kind of like Grania pointed out in a kind of, well, it's kind of like live gigs, music, sports, and all of that kind of stuff. But I think there's much more to it than that. I've been working now in this area for about 22 or 23 years. And I think where I've got to, certainly, and where Fuel talk about a lot, is experiences is much more than just those live events. It is about moments. Every moment matters, and that's what we want to talk about today, because in every moment there is an opportunity to really create an experience that matters. And that's what we want to talk about today. It's not always about the live event like this very room this morning. It's actually so much more than that, and every one of those is an opportunity. So I want to start with, this is one of my favorite images in the world. I use it quite a lot. It's actually from a report that Google put out about the buyer decision-making process. So in this purpose, the graph, so to speak, tries to explain the moment that you're triggered to start to buy something to the moment that you actually purchase it. And in here is the muddle, what they call the messy middle, of all of those bits where you start to explore and evaluate the options of your purchase. Okay? But for today's purpose, what I wanted to do was kind of reimagine this chart and go, actually, again, picking up on what Grania said at the beginning, is from an employer brand point of view, from that first impression to the lasting legacy, what's in here? Because I think if we're being really honest, what's in there is quite messy. It's often not very consistent. So if we think about onboarding, celebrations, all hands, emails, all the various bits that make up the journey for our employers or employees, how consistent are we? There's certainly points we can pick out probably and go, that's brilliant. And there's points we can pick out and go, that's not brilliant. But there's definitely a sense, I think, the more and more we look at it, that it's not very consistent. Are you always telling the same story? Or actually focus in on certain bits? And there's a lot to that. It's very difficult to do. And what I'm going to try and do today is probably bring a couple of examples to life that might be kind of inspire how sometimes those little tiny moments are actually huge opportunities to create great experiences. And hopefully we can walk out of here with some new knowledge and a bit of a transformed impact on that, right? But I think one of the things, again, we do in work here, often when we're working on a project, is to look outside a category. And that's, again, something I want to do today. I want to look at restaurants. And I'm going to stay in that world for the whole time and just pick out examples of that, because I think there's a lot of learnings, especially in some of those micro moments, that people are doing that are unbelievable. And I think really important for all of us. Is there anybody in the room from Nottingham? No, okay. Good, because I'm about to shit on it a little bit. This is a chef called Sat Baines. He is a 2-star Michelin chef. He has a restaurant based in Nottingham. I brought him over once for a conference with Heineken about 10, 12 years ago, so I got to know him then. And it was on that kind of conference I got the sense of just the journey and just the level of detail he puts into the experience and how much he wants to control that experience when people come into his brand, whether that's the employees he's attracting in and the talent, or whether it's customers. Just to give you a sense of his world, that's his restaurant down a beautiful looking laneway. And if you If you watch too many Netflix crime shows, you're probably wondering what's going to happen when you get to the white van. You can obviously notice the electricity pylons. So he got to a point where he goes, it's a journey to come to his restaurant. He's in Nottingham, and he started to realize, because most people travel to him, so I've taken Dublin as an example today, it's a long trek. And what he started to think about himself was, it's often couples that will come and make that journey to the restaurant. And by the time they get there, and they get to that scary looking laneway that looks, are we lost? Are we about to get abducted? Is this really what we've just spent 6 hours to come for? He decided, well, we need to actually control the situation now. So as soon as they come into us, let's wipe that. Because he realized if you've been in the car for 6 hours with your friend, your wife, or whoever it might be, you might have ended up bickering at that point. You've spent a little bit too much time with them in a confined space, and you need something to reset. So this is my first example. The first two are going to be with that. But what that did was, knowing all of that as soon as they got out of the car and they walked into the building, he gave them a bite of food that just absolutely reset them. Forgot everything that just happened for that 6 hours, and now I'm in control. And they were putting in his hands, take me on this journey, please. So this is a picture of a little bit of aerated chocolate that he serves when people arrive. He's probably a little unhappy with this piece of chocolate here as a 2 Michelin star chef. But a very, very simple moment of, I'm in control now. The second piece is also from Sat. So Sat, to explain, if you go to his restaurant, serves a 20-course tasting menu. It in itself is quite a journey to go through. But again, they started to think about, well, what are the moments in that journey? And if you think that even functionally, if I'm sitting at this table here with whoever I'm dining with, think about how many times the waitstaff have to interrupt you. Wine, glasses, cutlery, the whole shebang, over 20 courses. It's a lot. And he was like, that's a terrible experience. So he designed this piece of cutlery where he puts in a number of forks, spoons. Use what you want. They're all there. If you ever run out before you even notice, they're going to be replenished. And it killed that straight away of just noticing the, sorry, can I get that? Sorry, I know you're proposing. It's okay. It's fine. Sorry. And just got rid of that. So brilliant two examples of just very small moments, I think, where you can sit down and go, actually, how can we turn this moment into something that matters? The third one, then, staying in the world of restaurants, is to look at the TV show called The Bear. The nods maybe go, it's back in a week or two, I think. And I think next week it's back. I'm very excited. I could probably do an hour, a whole day maybe, on this one episode alone. So this episode is from season 2. It's called Forks. There's no spoiler alerts if anybody hasn't started to watch The Bear yet. But it's a brilliant study, I think, and this is a fella called Richie. He was involved in the kind of the ownership of another restaurant that's in the TV show. And he gets sent to stage in a 3-star Michelin restaurant, one of the best in the world. Which, as a quick pause for a sec, like, even the idea of staging is something we can rob from the restaurant world. The idea of going for just a week, a month to another place that do the best ever and then come back with that is something we should all look at. Anyway, back to the presentation. He gets sent to this restaurant, and you can see in his facial expressions, he's a little begrudging about it because he's given the task of polishing forks. And there's a little clip I'm going to play here where he's been polishing them for 9 hours, and he's getting a little bit annoyed.
That wasn't clean.
I've been doing this for 9 hours. I think I know what's clean.
I'm telling you that's not clean. That was not clean either. Please do them properly.
Yo, they're goddamn forks.
Outside.
So we're going to come back to Richie and the other fella, Garrett, a little bit later on. But why I'm bringing this up is, here is an employee, much like maybe most of us at certain points in our life, of just a bit disgruntled. Why am I doing this? How do I get progression? What's the point? And what's interesting, I think, for me, certainly maybe knowing a little bit of that world in the background, is a lot of that episode is based on what's a book by a guy called Will Goddard, who we'll get to in a sec. But it's based on his experience from this restaurant. So this restaurant is 11 Madison Avenue in New York City. It became one of the world's best for a period of times. It still is probably in that category and is completely vegetarian now, amazingly. And I just want to talk about what they did strategy-wise to go, actually, how can we empower our employees to get us to the best restaurant in the world? Took a focus away from the chef and the food, and actually let's start thinking about all this other experience. One of the things I love about the room, this is just fun fact, and anybody who likes art, that painting's amazing. It's by Reed Ackerman. It's from her Chalkboard series. But the real point is this guy, Will Goddard. You may know this book. It's certainly, I think, one of the best sellers out there in the world. It's largely probably based on a lot of Japanese principles called omonitashi. But what he did was, as he calls it, come up with a winning strategy to take them from being a really good restaurant to being the best in the world. As he says, even on the cover of the book there, the power of turning the kind of the ordinary into the extraordinary, which is what we're talking about today, moments that matter. So he tells this story when he kind of had that light bulb moment. There's a brilliant TED talk you can check out to see kind of this story brought to life. But he's in the restaurant one day on a lunch service, and he's actually on the floor interrupting those people, as I just spoke about in Sat's example. And in doing so, he's overheard, there's a group, I think, of 4 or 5 people, and they're talking about, in their time in New York City, they've just come to 11 Madison Avenue, they've been to Per Se, Momofuku, a couple of the best restaurants in New York City. But he also overhears one going, you know the one thing that we didn't do was to get a New York City hot dog. So light bulb strikes, he runs back into the kitchen, goes out to a New York City hot dog stand, comes back into one of the best chefs in the world and goes, "Chef, we have to give this hot dog." And he's like, "What the fuck? I'm not delivering a hot dog to these people out there." But that was the start of their strategy. They delivered that hot dog to those people and said, "Hey, look, I overheard this. Here's your New York City hot dog." They're going to stay with that brand for a long time. And I think the power that in that strategy, and he talks about this in the book, is he empowered the waitstaff to be dream weavers. So imagine Richie in that situation of polishing the forks going, "What am I doing here? What is my life?" But there's a moment where he starts to realize this is the task he's been given. Listen out for those little moments where we can actually take this from being just something ordinary to something extraordinary. And I think there's real magic in that. The fourth example is trying to bring all of that together then as well, okay? So why am I telling you about all these restaurants? And for a sec, I'm going to stay in restaurants, and then I'm going to move into Warfield. This is a quote from a chef called Charlie Trotter from Chicago. It's something, again, a quote I'm very fond of. It talks about this idea that the old adage of the customer is always right. And he goes, "Well, I think the opposite is true, actually. They're rarely right." And he talks about, all those previous examples I've just taken you through is really about tactics. How can you dominate, as Charlie says, every last detail to give them a better experience than they could ever have imagined for themselves? I'd argue you can certainly change customer in that quote to employee. There's probably a sense of that. They know what they want, but you can actually create an experience and look back to that messy middle and go, we can control this and give them a far better experience than they could have ever imagined themselves. How do we do that? We step into the Warfield for a sec. So this is from a report by Ivan Aragon Toft. It's about all the mismatched wars that have happened over the last 200 years. So in these graphs, there's 2 to show you. The grey box represents the big guys with the army and all the money. And the yellow box represents the underdogs. So that's what he means by mismatched wars. And I think we're certainly, as a lot of people often would say, we're not saving lives in the work that we do, but we are in a battle for people's attention and how can we attract and keep the best people that we can get. And what's interesting was, in a situation where it was a fairly straightforward warfare, and remember, this is over 200 years, the big guy actually only won 71%. The little guy still won 29%. But what's amazing, when they changed their tactics from kind of straight warfare into or more unconventional or guerrilla tactics, the little guy won 64% of the time. And I think there's something really strong for us in that to go, okay, well, how are we attracting the talent into our business? How are we keeping them? Are we using normal tactics and doing what everybody else is doing, or are we being more unconventional? And I'd argue we need to be more unconventional. We need to look at some of these micro moments and go, how can we elevate them in a way that's going to attract people to us and keep them with us? So back to our friends, Richie and Garrett for a second.
Do you think this is below you or something?
Man, I think I'm 45 years old polishing forks.
No one is asking you to be here. I don't think anybody remembers your name.
Nice try. You think I don't know how hard it is hiring people since COVID?
We don't have that problem.
You really drink this Kool-Aid, huh?
Yeah, I do.
Why?
Because I love this, Richie. I love this so much, dude. Did you know that when this restaurant opened 12 years ago, it won the best restaurant in the world the same year? It's retained 3 stars because we have a waiting list that's long. 5,000 people waiting at any given moment long. Do you see their faces when they walk in here? How stoked they are to see us and how stoked we have to be to serve them? It takes 200 people to keep this place in orbit, and at any given moment, one of those people that is waiting in line gets to eat here. They get to spend their time and their money here. I'm sorry, bro, but we need to have some forks without streaks in them. Every day here is the freaking Super Bowl. You don't have to drink the Kool-Aid, Richie. I just need you to respect me. I need you to respect the staff, I need you to respect the diners, and I need you to respect yourself.
I can do respect.
Lovely, I'll see you inside.
So there's a few bits in that clip. I think, I'd hire Garrett. He's pretty good. B, not to give away again the show, there's a moment a little bit later where Richie has that experience where he becomes a dream weaver. But there's something interesting, I think, in the end of that clip. So Garrett speaks about the restaurant being one of the world's best. That's good for him, and that's obviously a nice way to bring in people to your organization because you're the best in the world, if that even exists. But let's leave that for a sec because all of us can't be the best. I think the interest in there bit is to explain, and again, staying in the restaurant world, what 3-star means. So this idea of Michelin stars is very much restaurant world. It doesn't go anywhere else, but I actually am a big believer in actually if we adopt that philosophy of, well, what does that mean? There's something we can really take out of it. So just to explain Michelin for a sec, there's a lot of kind of cloak and dagger about it, but ultimately the ratings they give are no stars, 1 star, 2 stars, 3 star. A 1-star restaurant is very good, high quality, worth a stop. A 2-star restaurant is excellent and worth a detour, and a 3-star restaurant is something that's exceptional and worth the journey. Now, hopefully you're with me so far. I don't need to explain that. I think the challenge we have that I'm putting out today is: are we 3-star in what we're doing? Are we looking at each and every moment to get to that level? And when people ask me now what we do or what our agency does, that's my answer. I'm looking to take the moments that are often overlooked and turn them into something that is an incredibly strong brand building experience. One that is worth a journey. It's something bigger than actually, let's have a stop, let's have a detour. I want to go a journey with these people. And that's it for me today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.